All right, here goes our first shot at one of these videos. We're going to talk today again, Domains and Kingdoms. This is Chapter 8, Lesson 3 in your book or the scanned PDF, pages 334 through 337. All right, so let's talk about how organisms are classified into domains. If you remember a domain, a largest classification, all organisms can be put into one of three domains, and they're placed there based on the type of cell that the organism has. A type of cell meaning, is it prokaryotic, no nucleus, no membrane-bound organelles, or eukaryotic, like us, you, think you and I, a eukaryotic, we have a nucleus, and our organelles have a membrane. They're also placed into domains based on their ability to make food. Okay, we talked about before autotrophs. Auto means self, troph, feeder, self-feeder. They make their own food. Okay, or heterotroph. Okay, we know. Remember, hetero means different. Okay, so heterotrophs have to consume other organisms. And then finally, the number of cells in their body. Okay, is the organism unicellular, meaning one cell is responsible for all of the functions of that organism, or multicellular, where this organism has specialized cells that do specific jobs. So the three domains are bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Again, we belong to the domain eukarya. Okay, think eukarya. Talking about bacteria, and this is by far the largest domain. They make up about half of all organisms found on Earth. Okay, some are autotrophs and some are heterotrophs. We actually have several different types of bacteria that live in our large intestine that help us break down that waste product and that did not get absorbed. All bacteria are prokaryotic. Okay, meaning they're unicellular and that cell does not have a nucleus. And the B series here, other than the funny picture of the raccoon, the Cereus is a type of bacteria that we commonly associate with food poisoning. Archaea, very, very similar to bacteria, not discovered until the late 70s, which is like in science, in terms of evolution, that's like yesterday. Some are autotrophs, some are heterotrophs, but they are all prokaryotic. And we've talked about that before. The thing with archaea that makes them a little bit different than bacteria is they live in very extreme places in the earth, deep, deep ocean vents where the gas and water near these vents 400 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. And they're also found in these sulfur pits where sulfur is mined. Basically, there is no life there other than these archaea. Okay. And their chemical makeup and cell structure is slightly different from bacteria, and that's why they were put in their own domain. And finally, the domain eukarya, eukaryotic. This is us, okay? Organisms that have cells that contain a nucleus. Excuse me. Okay, so domain, if you remember from your levels of classification, we go from domain to kingdom. There are 4 kingdoms in the domain eukarya. All right. And again, we talked about before, based on the number of cells and how they obtain food. So the 4 kingdoms, we should be able to identify 2. Okay. So the protists, probably the one that you wouldn't have remembered. Okay, fungi, and then the 2 that I expected you to know would be plant and animals. So we're going to go through each one of these kingdoms individually. So first, we're going to talk about the protists. Okay. Everybody has that junk drawer in their house, where there's like a pen cap, a key that you don't know what it belongs to, a spring, a I know I have one of those junk drawers, and Kingdom Protista is basically that junk drawer. It's everything that is not a fungus, plant, or animal. Okay. Most of you probably didn't realize that seaweed is not a plant. It's actually a protist. Algae, kelp, amoebas, these are also examples of protist. And the most important protist is a little thing called a diatom, and that actually makes the vast majority of the oxygen that we consume. They're little protists that live in the ocean. So kingdom fungi, think fungus. Okay, we should instantly think of mushrooms. Okay, they are all multicellular heterotrophs. Okay, meaning they consume other organisms. They're all terrestrial, which means they live on land. Okay, we know that these are our decomposers. They break down and feed off of dead organic material. Okay, so we've got kingdom protista, kingdom fungi, now kingdom plantae. These are our plants. Okay, all plants are multicellular autotrophs. Okay, meaning all plants have more than one cell and they have the ability to make their own food through photosynthesis. Even a pitcher plant. I know I'm going to get that question if we were in class. Well, what about the Venus flytrap? Okay, a Venus flytrap can survive without ever catching a single insect. Okay, it can survive through photosynthesizing its own food. It just pitcher plants and Venus flytraps, and they supplement their nutrition by the ability to capture and consume other organisms. Okay. Another interesting fact about the kingdom plantae, or the plants, okay, they provide food, for most land-based heterotrophs. All right. So think of our hooved animals, even us, we consume these plants, for nutrients. All right. So the one that we belong to here, kingdom Animalia. Okay, all animals, again, multicellular heterotrophs. All animals consume other organisms to obtain their food. Okay. Kingdom Animalia also, specific adaptations. Okay, they have evolved over time that allows them to survive in a wide variety of environments. Think of the different environments from, the hot, dry desert to, Arctic tundra and all the other biomes that we're going to get into. There are animals that live there that have specific adaptations that allow them to not only survive, but to thrive in these environments. Okay. Interesting fact as well, 97% of all animals are invertebrates, meaning they do not have backbones. And we're going to get into that here in a little bit. This isn't in your book. I know you guys have seen me take out those jars that are in the back of the classroom. This is this unfortunate part of this situation we're in, is that we can't actually do this activity. It's one of my favorite activities for the year, where we actually get into the different phyla of the kingdom Animalia. So if you remember our levels of organization, we go domain, kingdom, phyla. Okay, so we're talking animals belong to the domain Eukarya, kingdom Animalia. Now we have the 9 major phyla, of animals. We have phylum Porifera. These are our sponges. These are stationary filter feeders, that extract nutrients by specialized cells that pull nutrients out of water that is funneled through these organisms. Okay. Next, cnidaria. Okay. These are our jellies, okay, and corals. They have specialized cells called nematocysts. Okay. These are stinging cells that allow them to capture their prey. Next, this one's a little difficult to pronounce. This is the phylum Platyhelminthes. Okay, these are the flatworms. Okay, so think tapeworms. Okay, a lot of these organisms are parasitic. Nematoda. This is also a worm. So these next three, Platyhelminthes, Nematoda, and Annelida, these are all types of worms. Okay, so the nematodes, these are our roundworms. If you remember when we were talking about parasites, I had that intestinal roundworm in the jar. Okay, that organism actually belonged to the phylum Nematoda. And then the final phylum of worm is the annelids. Okay, these are the segmented worms. These are terrestrial worms. Okay, think of an earthworm. Okay, how it has those little tiny segments or sections. Okay, those are the worms that belong to the phylum Annelida. Next, we have the mollusks. Okay, phylum Mollusca. Okay, seafood. Mollusks, soft-bodied organisms. Okay, not all have a hard outer shell like a clam or an oyster. Squid, cuttlefish. Okay, those are all mollusks as well. Okay, soft-bodied organisms. Next, and the largest phyla of animals, these are the arthropods. Okay, think insects here. Okay, they are all invertebrates. They do not have backbones. Okay, so they go crunch, squish, rather than like us. Okay, the chordates. Okay, we go squish, crunch. So again, arthropod, crabs, lobsters, ants, grasshoppers, and basically anything that we associate as an insect is in the phyla Arthropoda. Okay, so moving on, the eighth one here, this is the echinoderms, phyla Echinodermata. Okay, echina means spiny, derma, okay, think of our skin, okay, derma, we go to the dermatologist, so these are spiny skinned animals. Okay, starfish, oh, I'm drawing a blank. Sea urchins, thank you. These belong to the phyla Echinodermata. And then finally, the smallest phyla in Animalia, and the one that we belong to, these are the most complex of all the animals. This is the phyla Chordata. Think cord, okay, spinal cord. These are animals that are vertebrate, okay, vertebrate animals. Okay, your dog, a lizard, fish, and basically what we consider animals. And again, this is not in your book. And I'll just kind of briefly go through it, and then I'm going to see if I can find a good video to post about the classes of chordates. Okay, so if we move down the levels of organization, again, domain Eukarya, kingdom Animalia, phyla Chordata, now we get to class. And I'll just kind of talk about this. I don't have a slide on it yet, and like I said, I'm gonna try and find a good video, and I'll post it here as well. So we have a couple different classes, or actually more than a couple. Okay, but first we'll talk about the class Amphibia. Okay, these are the amphibians. Think salamanders, newts, frogs. These are the moist-skinned animals. So again, all of these organisms that I'm talking about now in Okay? Class Amphibia obviously have a backbone because they belong to the phyla Chordata. Class Agnatha. This is one you're probably unfamiliar with. These are the jawless fish. Lampreys. I can't think of hagfish. Thank you. These are fish that don't have a jaw. Their teeth are in an open mouth area, and they just attach to a whale or a large fish and just kind of feed off of their parasitic. They feed off of that organism. Class Aves, aviation, aviary. Hopefully that makes you think of birds. So these are all the birds, class Aves. We also have two different classes of fish. We have the osteichthyes. We know osteo means bone. Okay, so these are the bony fish, okay, like a bass or a bluegill or a marlin or a sailfish. They actually have hard bones. And there's another class of fish called the chondriichthyes, okay, and these are the cartilaginous fishes, sharks, stingrays, skates. Okay, so those are two different classes of fishes. We also have class Reptilia. Okay, these are our reptiles. These are dry-skinned animals. Okay, so alligators, snakes, turtles, and tortoises. Okay, a lot of people get that confused. Okay, turtles and tortoises are reptiles. They are not amphibians. And then finally, hopefully, I'm going to give you a second to see if you can think of which class we belong to. We haven't mentioned it yet. Warm-blooded, gives birth to live young, covered in hair. We belong to the class Mammalia. Okay, so we are mammals. That should do it for lesson 3. Okay, if you have any questions, post them directly to this thread. Okay, we're getting better at this, guys. I promise it's going to get better. Hey, miss all of you. Talk to you later. Bye.